Okay, welcome back, friends of philosophy. Um, I had to readjust my content a little bit, and I decided that I won't have like a fancy setup anymore. Now it's just me sitting in front of a camera, right? And like I just edit my documents. So the reason why I do that is because I feel ChatGPT is now so good in summarizing contents. And I think it's really about the personal connection you could have. And what I want to talk about is Aristotle's Nichomachean ethics and especially the concept of friendship. This became very important to me. I make this philosophy club here in China, right? And we were talking about friendship, and people were summarizing their friendships and were deeply disappointed that people dropped their relationships after, for example, they were learning for a course at university, or they were just going out with them drinking beer. And according to Aristotle, there are three models, right? The first one is oriented towards utility. And if the utility stops, the friendship stops. And the same is true for friendships that are based on pleasure, which is the second model of Aristotle. Now, what is quite hard and what a lot of people expect is true friendship. But this kind of true friendship is really hard to accomplish. And what I found really interesting is that true friendship resembles the model of virtue that Aristotle develops. So, and we see here in the picture generated with Gemini that virtue is a stable form, right? It's not a momentary feeling, but an enduring structure of character. And that must be the foundation for friendship, right? So true friendship then is stable, reciprocal, enduring, grounded in mutual recognition of virtue. So somehow we must display virtue in our relationship of friendship. Only then we have a shared habitual activity that is not just based on utility or pleasure. There are different concepts in here, rings of reciprocity, and so on and so on. I think these models are really good that Gemini makes of these texts, right? So yeah, again, so like how do they actually correspond? So we have here the stable excellence of character, and that actually corresponds to the stable excellence of the relation. The right relation to oneself gives the ground for the right relation to another. The habitual activity that you do every day can be the ground for shared habitual activity, and the love of the good can turn into the mutual love of the good. Self-realization becomes co-realization, and so friendship becomes virtue as the extended outward. So this is basically a model of how we should invest in our friendship, which we most of the time don't do, because most of the time we look for utility and for pleasure, right? And who wants to really invest in their friends? Most of the time people are concerned with their love partners or with the pursuit of love without giving too much attention to that. So therefore, let's I'm sorry, as a very important tool for living appropriately. Young, it helps to keep from error. Older people, it helps to save them from their failings, right? They are weak. And then the most interesting thing is people in their prime life, right? They want noble actions to going together because they know that with friends, thinking and acting can be performed in a better way. Again, parent seems by nature to feel it for offspring and offspring for parent, not only among man, but among birds and among most animals. It is felt mutually by members of the same race and especially by man, whence we praise lovers and their fellow men. So it seems the feeling of friendship is something that we can observe in nature, but that comes to the fore in its most obvious form with regard to humans. We may even in our travels how near and dear every man is to every other. So I guess in our travels we experience that. Friendship seems to hold states together and lawgivers to care more for it than for justice. Now this is also interesting. So here's the implication that friendship is the base for a good society. Justice just regulates, but it cannot completely regulate a society. And a society that is just would be very cold. So there needs to be an implementation of friendship. For onanimity seems to be something like friendship. And this they aim at most of all and expel faction as their worst enemy. I'm sorry. And when men are friends, they have no need of justice, while when they are just, they need friendship as well. So when you're friends, you don't need justice. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, right? Because many people think that a relationship, for example, between man and woman should be somehow just. And then I say, oh, I did the laundry, you do the dishes, I do the cooking, maybe you do the dishes. And then the other partner says, but wait, cooking is fun and I do the dishes, so dishes should be double. So what you start to do is, if you pursue justice in relationships, you start measuring everything and it introduces too many complications. And I think what this here means is that if you have true friendship, you don't measure things in justice. You sometimes just give. And you don't give in order to receive back, right? And yeah, it's clear that when there's no justice, then... And when they are just, they need friendship as well. So, okay, justice also needs friendship. Okay, that's basically what I said. And the truest form of justice is thought to be friendly quality. Now, maybe I overinterpreted a little bit here, right? But it is not necessary, but also noble. For we praise those who love their friends, and it is thought to be a fine thing to have many friends. And again, we think it is the same people that are good men and are friends. So he basically repeats how much we need friends. It's a very straightforward, simple argument by empirical observation. There's not yet a lot of structural finesse that we can find in there, right? Not a few things about friendships are matter of debate. Some define it as a kind of likeness and say, like people are friends. When come the saying like to like, birds of a feather flock together, and so on. Others, on the contrary, say two of a trait never agree. So he does here again an empirical observation, empirical investigation of what people actually think about friendship, right? On this very question, they inquire for deeper and more physical causes. Euripides saying that parched earth loves the rain, and stately heaven, when filled with rain, loves to fall to earth, and Heraclitus that it is what opposes that helps, and from different tones comes the fairest tune, and all things are produced through strife. While Empedocles, as well as others, expresses the opposite view that like aims at like. So he does here dialectical investigation, which in this case means he just investigates the opinions that are around. The physical problems we may leave alone, for they do not belong to the present inquiry. Let us examine those which are human and involve character and feeling, for example, whether friendship can arise between any two people, or people cannot be friends if they are wicked, and whether there is one species of friendship or more than one. Those who think there is only one because it admits of degrees have relied on an inadequate indication, for even things different in species admit of degree. We have discussed this matter previously. So yeah, he wonders, are there different kinds of friendship? Is it just a matter of degree? So I think he believes there are really different kinds of friendship. And now, I mean, look at this. We just hammer it into Gemini and it just gives out the perfect summary, right? So what is the reason for the necessity of friendship? It's a universal need, right? That's what we said. Prosperity and power. So it's about beneficiating people. I don't know how you say that in English. And adversity. So in times of misfortune, you need friends. Depends on life stages, right? Then it also has social and political dimensions. First of all, it's a natural instinct. It's needed in a state to be stable, and it has a relationship to justice. Then distinguishes the moral dimension. It's not merely utility, but also a question of how noble you are. and that's how it's praised, right? And it is related to a person who's a good man, he's a capable friend. And then there are, of course, theoretical debates. So there's likeness versus opposition. So some people argue that friends have to be similar. Others say that they have to be different because then opposition helps them. Actually, this does it even better than I did it, right? Because I haven't had that clarity on the positions immediately, right? Scope of inquiry. Aristotle dismisses physical problems like the attraction of the earth to rain to focus on human friendship involving character and feeling. Okay, I didn't see that. I just read it too quickly, right? But it seems okay. He doesn't want to like compare it to a natural phenomenon. And then plurality of species. He suggests that friendship is likely not a single species, but may exist in multiple forms. That's what we've discussed at the end. And I mean, now look at that. I just asked Gemini to turn it into a comic, and immediately does that, right? So it shows you this man saying, like, I have so much richness, but I'm not happy. And then it distinguishes like the different ages where you need friendship, right? Help the young from error, supplement in the activities of failing. In poverty, friends are the only refuge. Then it relates it to society. True friendship supersedes justice, right? And when men are friends, they have no need of justice. Although I don't understand that in the text, because doesn't he say that you also need friends when you are just? Where was it? Let's find it. Would I okay? That's it, right? Those in prime together. Then he compares the animals. Like friendship, and this is the aim at most of all. And when men are friends, they have no need of justice, okay? While when they are just, they need friendship as well. Okay, so maybe I misrepresented that before, right? So when you have friends, you don't need justice. That's very interesting. And yeah, then the last one, he discusses like the different people, right? And Aristotle says, leave physical causes alone, our inquiry is human, character, feeling, and the species of friendship. So let us begin. Gemini, do you need me? Let me know in the comments. For the rest, seek friendship and prosper. Bye-bye.